Finally tonight, an Australian internationalist we probably don't hear enough from here at home. Depending on your level of scepticism, it may seem contradictory that a man with a personal fortune estimated at around $350 million has been called a spokesperson for the world's poor. But that's how they described James Wolfensohn when he headed up the powerful but hugely controversial World Bank. A master networker, not without his fierce critics. More recently, the former Sydney lawyer and merchant banker served as an envoy to the Middle East. I spoke with him via satellite from New York. James Wolfensohn, you've said that for your 10 years as head of the World Bank, you were consumed by the whole question of world poverty. It was almost like your magnificent obsession. But you could say that despite massive global growth, poverty is still the most critical issue of our time. Do you feel that you wasted a whole decade?
Oh, no, I don't really at all. But I think the challenge of poverty is becoming different, because in the next 25 years, in India and China alone, you'll have 600 million people or more going into the middle class. The problem is that whereas once we looked at India, China, the developing countries, as homogeneous in a way, being poor, as we look forward, there is a tremendous purchasing power in those countries. And what we all have to worry about, including the Chinese and the Indians and the richer countries, is still the 1 billion or 1.5 billion people that are left behind. So this question of poverty is not leaving us, it's just changing, and in fact we will now have some partners that can work with us and indeed have a responsibility to their own citizens to try and deal with these questions.
You've said that unless we look seriously at the problems of poverty and equity, the chances of stability on the planet are pretty remote. That's a very dire warning.
Well, my own personal view is that, and it can come in many ways. The poor people of the world tend to be the places that Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups can recruit. Secondly, if you have 1 billion or 1.5 billion people today that are in poverty, it's not an uninformed poverty. They know that in other parts of the world it's much richer and much better, and it's not surprising with more mobility that gives the policy of disturbances in the world.
James, where the World Bank is concerned, the jury seems to be perpetually out. I mean, Jeffrey Sachs, for instance, says the bank really lost its way in recent years, that it's been poorly led and poorly managed with very little accountability or clear objectives. People just can't seem to make up their mind whether the World Bank's part of the solution or part of the problem.
Well, I think that it's a tremendously important part of the solution. And I might add that Jeff Sachs, who is a friend and I know very well, has not succeeded dramatically in his own efforts. This is a very particular and difficult problem. You can't wish away poverty overnight, but in India and China, for example, in the last 20 years, they've taken 600 million people out of poverty. So to say that the efforts have been unsuccessful is nonsensical, and to say that the bank has not played a role is also nonsense. The question is, what is the extent of that role? And I think what's happened in the last 10 years is that the bank has realized that you cannot do it as an outsider. The only way really to influence countries in terms of poverty is to get them to change their policies and to understand what the issues are. And I think that the World Bank is now doing, and has been doing for a number of years, a very important job, including looking at the significantly important issue of corruption. And it was, after all, the bank...
You tried to tackle it. Did you succeed?
Well, you don't succeed on corruption in 5 minutes. I wish one could. This is a 25 or 50-year attack. This is not a 5-minute attack.
James, can we move to the Middle East? Because that was the last time we heard of you prominently on the world stage. You stayed in that job for 12 months, but you said I was stupid, I think you said, for not reading the small print. I was never given the mandate to negotiate peace. Was that one of your least fruitful exercises?
Oh, I actually think that it was not successful in the end, but I don't know that it was without fruit. I think what I was able to do during that period was to bring a greater focus to the issues between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And at one point we had Condi Rice and Solana from the European Union, and I announced a 6-point plan which was designed to ameliorate the conditions of the people in Gaza and to build links between Gaza and West Bank. And I did that all with Arik Sharon. The problem became, however, that the small print in terms of making peace was all right when I had Arik Sharon next to me, but Arik got sick. And that moment, the small print became very relevant, and the Americans took over, and very sadly, the view was taken by them, and I think some of the Israeli leadership, the new leadership, that what we had designed was either too early or not properly constructed for the benefit of those people. So I left the job after the U.S., as one of the quartet that appointed me, which was the United Nations, European Union, and Russia, decided that the office should be closed. They asked me to stay on, but without staff it was pretty difficult. So I got out of it, and now Tony Blair is coming back with, I must say, exactly the same mandate. There is no mention...
So you wish him luck?
I wish him tremendous luck, but there is no part of his mandate which is to make peace.
So in the ultimate analysis, as a result of that experience, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the Middle East problem? Is it solvable?
It's solvable, and it must be solved, and I pray that it will be solved, but I would give less than 50-50 chance of a resolution this time round, but hopefully it can be a further step forward. You will have Abu Mazen trying to get it, and you will have the Israeli Prime Minister trying to get it. But with the American election coming up 12 months or so from now, the weight of U.S. influence will diminish, and I think this is the last significant opportunity for Condoleezza Rice to impose an American influence. So I'm slightly less than 50% in terms of my expectations of a happy outcome, but I pray that it will be happy and constructive.
Well, I guess we all share that feeling. Without introducing politics into politics, James, what do you think the outcome of the American election is going to be, and does it matter?
Well, I think you know that George Bush's popularity at the moment is around 23%, so there is certainly a reaction to his current policies, and my guess is that one way or another the American electorate will express its view that these policies are not the ones they want to follow. So in answer to the issue on policies, I think there will have to be a change if the democratic process works. And that will start in Iraq and with many other things, including, I hope, the deficit and the weakness of the dollar. I would say that at the moment you'd probably have to guess that a Democrat has the greater chance of getting in. But presidential politics is a very, very difficult thing to predict. And I wouldn't...
It's a bit like Australian politics at the moment, James, even though John Howard's behind.
Well, maybe you could...
No one's written him off.
I think that's exactly right. And so when we see whether Mr Rudd is successful in Australia, maybe that'll give us a line on what George Bush is going to do.
To finish up, you've been described as one of Australia's most powerful expats, but I don't think many Australians understand the clout that you've had around the globe in the last 10 to 20 years. Do you still feel like an Australian expat or more a citizen of the world?
Well, I feel significantly Australian. I still have a farm in Australia near Canberra, and now that it's possible to own dual citizenship, I hope to apply soon to recover my Australian citizenship. I had to give it up, and indeed got Malcolm Fraser's permission when I became president of the World Bank, because it's an American appointment. And I thought it was silly, but anyway, I did it. So now I have a chance with the new legislation that I can recover my Australian citizenship, and I intend to do so.
At the ripe young age of 73, James, has politics per se ever crossed your mind?
Never.
Never.
Apart from anything else, I don't think I'd get a vote for anything. But I think that I'm too old, and I much prefer being a critic at this stage.
Well, it's great to talk to you again, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you.
James Wolfensohn, an Australian with a world view. He's never been short of opinions about the world's more intractable issues. He's been there and done that after all.